here we are. It's Friday. Let's see, what's the day? June 24th, 2022, a week ahead of 4th of July coming up. Hope you all have plans out there and things. And I want to say thank you to everybody who took a look at the video we did on the Yuan Ming Yuan that we put up on Monday. And a lot of comments and a lot of positive ideas there. Thank you very much. And we're going to be doing, I think, a series of videos along that, not that particular topic, but other topics that sort of wander away a little bit from just talking about auction prices and so forth. I think it's interesting. I hope you find it interesting. Because it takes a ton of work to do them, and but it was fun to do. It was an interesting video to put together for us, a bit different than our normal offerings are, and it was fun. It was fun. I had to relearn a few things because you forget over time things that you knew, and you go, oh yeah, they did that too. At any rate, and we're working on some others. That's all I wanted to say on that topic. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was that on the over here on the identification assistance service and the auction preview thing that we do, where people send in. You send in images and pay us $12, and we'll tell you what we think of it, and what it might bring and that kind of thing. We've gotten a lot of inquiries from a particular eBay seller, and I want to save everybody $12. Okay, so you don't have to keep submitting them. This is a seller that we have had on the newsletter page on Bidamount. Who's an eBay seller many times. They had a good track record of getting into great estates. They got some interesting things over the years. We've talked about them. They're Woolwall Street 12 store. These guys, they're in Rhode Island. And something's happened there, and I don't know what it is, but a few months ago they started putting up things representing them as yuan, representing them as xuandi, representing them as this, representing them as that, and they started. And I thought immediately, well, no, we didn't put them on the newsletter page because they were all copies, and we thought that very quickly they would learn that whatever these are, they're not what they think they are, and they will stop selling them. Well, they have kept selling them, and they've been selling them for a lot of money. And it frankly infuriates me because these are fakes. And you have things like this, and a pretty blatant fake it is this a copper red, underglazed red plate that they put up as a Ming Dynasty Xuandi mark plate. It's not Ming Dynasty. It has a Ming Dynasty mark on it, but it's not. Okay, it's a total reproduction. I don't know where the mark is. Where's the mark on this one? I don't even see a mark. Yeah, there isn't. But at any rate, this is a reproduction. It's a copy. I don't know. This doesn't have a Xuandi mark on it. It seems to me like they're maybe getting their information on how to list them from the consignor. But there's a lot of stuff on here, and some of them have brought a lot of money. Here's a fake yuan vase that brought $13,000. Of course, if it was authentic, it would bring, well into six figures. But regardless, somebody believed it because these guys had a reputation. They had a good reputation, and they are just blowing it. If any of you paid $13,000 for this, send it back. Don't pay for it. Get your money back. I don't know what these guys are doing, but all of these pieces are copies. Maybe they got in with a bad consignor. I don't know what it is. They do take consignments. And the stuff is bringing lots and lots of money, and they're all fakes. Chinlong vase, $14,000. This underglazed red yuan, selling it as a Yuan Dynasty vase. That was an underglazed red Yuan Dynasty vase. It would be worth, $500,000. And on and on and on it goes. And lots of items bringing thousands of dollars. And every single one of these is a fake that I can see. Every one of them. All right. And I don't know what they're doing, but a lot of things are bringing $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $13,000, $14,000, and so forth. And they're all all of the holy grails, so to speak. So just be very careful. when dealing with these fellas. I don't mind answering the replies, but I think I got like 6 of them in the last 2 weeks. From different people that are seeing these, because somebody asked me why I wasn't putting them in the newsletter page, because I always spoke well of them, and I'm afraid until something happens there, I don't know what to say. They're selling fakes. They're taking it. They may be being misled by someone. I don't know. I don't know what the story is there, but I hope they knock it off quickly, because they're really blowing their reputation, or will eventually. Okay, now on to what's been going on. There's been a lot of auctions this week. A lot of things are happening. We're going to go through some of the events. All of them have been on the global pages. There's a sale that we posted this week. It's a jade sale from Sir Run Shah. I don't know if you know who he is. We'll talk about him a little bit. A very interesting personality in China. Lived to be a very old man. He died in 2014, I think at the age of 105, 106. But he was a collector, and he led an interesting life. And there's some other things. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to mention was that the Bonham sale of snuff bottles closed. This was their online sale the other day. It closed on the 23rd. It closed, I guess, yesterday, last night. And they had, this was over in the UK. It was a small sale, but they had some really nice snuff bottles. And I hope those of you that buy snuff bottles, I hope you were tracking this on the global pages. In particular, it was this very nice jadeite snuff bottle with good color. Brought 4,000 pounds. And there were some others, some good agate pieces, some russet jade pieces, and so forth. Some good examples, and some decent lots, too, in here of groupings of late Qing examples and so forth. It was a good little auction online. And remember, snuff bottles are very inexpensive to ship. So if you see snuff bottles in an auction overseas or in another country other than your own, don't be afraid of it, because the cost of shipping them is peanuts. So take part in it. Why not? I mean, to ship 6 bottles from to London to here, including getting them picked up, packed, and sent is for six or so bottles is about $120. It's perfectly fine, and you can pick up some nice things that way, because there are a lot of people that won't bid overseas or bid in other countries just because because they're afraid of the shipping. Get the information first and then look into it. All right, because there are some good things, and this is the Bonham sale that took place in L.A. this past week. It was another online sale, closed on the 22nd, and they also had some very nice results. They had some good things, and these are things that were not terribly expensive. They're in the upper hundreds to to $8,000 or $10,000 range typically. They had some things that did better than that, but they had some nice lots. And I want to go through a couple of them with you just because I liked them so much. One of them was this dragon robe. It was a really nice Shifu robe. Very good decoration. The gilding on it was very strong. Lots of gilding. Had this beautiful black background with dragons going up the collar and all this. Just a terrific robe. Just a terrific robe. An informal robe, but beautiful. And it did fine. It brought $12,112, including the buyer's premium, which is about what it's worth, because it was much better than the average blue ground dragon robe. The skirt was very developed. It was just a lovely example made probably in the mid-19th century. But absolutely great color, and it looked like it was in fabulous condition. So bravo on that. And this was an interesting two paintings. I liked these. One of them was porcelain pottery making, and the other one was the tea trade. And the pair of them, this was at Bonham's again, they brought $3,350 for the 2 paintings. But here it is. These are nice pictures, probably done on English paper. I love how the clouds are coming out of the smoke coming out of the rafters of the kilns, rather, out of the tops. Here are the vents on the top of it. If you've never seen one, this is what the old kilns used to look like. in the 18th century and the 19th century. And here they are. They're very, they aren't these primitive things that you sometimes might think of necessarily, but this is it. And here are the vents on top, and you have these swirling clouds of smoke coming out. There's a couple more kilns up here, and here they are dumping the wasters over the edge, the ones that didn't come out right, and so forth. It's an interesting picture. And the next one is this one, which is tea preparation. Actually, this is a tea studio where they sort and dry the stuff and get it ready to be packed. Another nice picture, beautifully done, and look like in good condition. And these are fairly good size. These are 15 by 18 inches, the site size on them, and they brought $3,570. So they came in at around $1,700 a piece, but they were very attractive. And the whole sale overall did pretty well. It was a nice auction. They had some good jades in here. I don't know if everybody followed this or not, but this was a sale out in California, and easy enough to do business with. Lots of shipping options out there, and good selection of snuff bottles and so forth, and some textiles. There you go. Okay. And of course the robes. There's the robe that we looked at before. There was another dragon robe that was very nice, but it wasn't quite as fancy. It brought about $5,000 less. So that was that. Now over to this. This is the Run Shaw, some jade from his collection. He was an interesting guy. He was in the entertainment business in Hong Kong. He was for a long time, many decades, and he was very, very successful businessman. And he was apparently a barrel of monkeys. He loved to have fun. He was known for being very gregarious and a little bit flamboyant, and made an enormous fortune. He was very smart. And he understood the Hong Kong market and the Chinese market, and got involved with, I guess, music and movies and all kinds of things. Very influential. And he passed away in 2014, I think it was. And these are a few things from his collection. Maybe somebody in his family had been holding on to them and decided to let them go or whatever. But these are online sale right now in Hong Kong, unreserved. All of these are unreserved, which is very unusual. Very, very unusual. And some really great examples. Earlier this week in the update block that appears on the homepage at Bidamount, we included an image of this jadeite Kuan Yin figure, late 19th century example. Beautiful carving, just a beautiful thing. And then you have the vases, the incense burners, covered jars, and figural things, like the lady with the basket with the flowers, another of the Kuan Yin, another of a root with roof scepters and so forth. That's very complicated. Some of these are extremely complicated carvings, but he seemed to like those, and so forth. Here's one of two horses, an adult and a foal, a couple of horses, and so forth. So if you find those interesting, check it out over on Sotheby's website, or check it on the global member pages. This is the global member page listing, and then there's a ceramics segment coming up here. There's some good things from them as well. All right, so just give it a look. It's worth it. All right, and if you haven't subscribed yet to the page, you ought to, because it's $1 a week, and it helps the channel. It helps us enormously to pay for everything that we do and the hours it takes to accumulate all the information that we put up, and all of that business, and makes it available, which is the whole point of it. It's farming in, pulling in all this material every day or two that we find, because we see a lot of stuff in the course of one day. It's unbelievable, and it's fun to share. I like sharing it. All right, and this was a sale that took place also. This was the Freeman sale, just closed yesterday, and it did well. It did fine. Ben Farina is the head guy over there, and he did a really good job. They always do nice photographs. too. I love how they do photographs. And the results were on a number of lots were quite strong. And he had these interesting Vietnamese vases in there with iron brown decoration on them. Very rare, Tran Dynasty. We'll go through them. I'm not going to just talk about them. First thing was that we had a couple of inquiries on this dish. I liked it, and I told the people that inquired about it I liked it, and I didn't think the estimate was unreasonable at all. And somebody picked it up for the low estimate. I think it was a good buy. This was a good sized plate too. It was what was this? It was a 12-inch plate, 1 foot and 3/4 inches. So it's technically a charger, but it has these dragons on it, the two dragons opposing over the pearl, and a borderless plate, which is so the whole plate's treated like a canvas. Very nice. And it had this very nice snow white, because it's Kangxi, very nice snow white grooved foot, these large grooved feet you see in particular on Kangxi pieces. They used them occasionally later, and then they sort of did a revival of them in the Republic period. And now they're making copies of these with these grooved foot rims to go on a stand. But this is what a real one looks like. The outer edge rim is usually higher or taller than the inner edge. This is just a little hint. And you see there's this little bit of ivory toning up in here, and this nice white, very compact paste. That's one of the things with Kangxi unglazed areas where the paste is. The paste doesn't have any graininess to it. It's very compact, very like it looks just like a solid mass. It doesn't. You don't see the bits and junk that you see in 19th century foot rims often. And here it is, that beautiful snow white foot rim. And this was a nice plate. It had everything going for it. And somebody picked it up for $1,000, which I think was a terrific buy. That was a terrific buy. And then there was this one, another 18th century plate, first half of the 19th century. It's difficult to date more precisely. Could be Kangxi, could be early Qianlong. But a beautiful example, and rather unusual, 13 3/4 inches. All right, and done in the Ming style, but good use of open space. I love the pine trees. I like the boy on the oxen and the lady keeping after him, so forth. It's got a nice bit of brown dressing on the rim, and ended up selling for $700. And this is Mirin and with the boy and the buffalo, and it's a Chinese fable, and it's been written about many times. And then on to this. This was a very nice 21 inch tall Famille Rose vase, mid-19th century, first half of the 19th century. But it had a wonderful design on it. I loved the handles. I loved how the handles were done on this. They sort of come out, and then they're sort of mirrored here in the decoration on the ground. It's sort of a continuation. It's like a ribbon that went around and went into the vase, and then came out, went across the vase, and went back across that way. It was a clever rendering. And the figures on it were nicely done, classic Mandarin figures. But one of the things that was nice was that the bottom cartouche here is sort of a roux head formed device, but outlined in light blue. I thought that was very nice. Any rate, this was a good-looking vase. There's the bottom of it, very typical for the period. And how did it do it? Just about $1,000 on it, and it was 21.5 inches tall. So that was a very good buy for someone. I think if it had brought $2,500, I wouldn't have been all that surprised. It was a very pretty vase, and it was big, but that's what it brought, and I think this is just how the market is right now. So if you've been hanging on to your pennies and thinking of, doing some selective buying, I think we're getting into that territory. I think there's some good opportunities out there. Prices we saw in Hong Kong a few weeks ago were a little bit on the soft side, and I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think the global economy is affecting how people spend their extra money. Even wealthy people, they're being a little careful. You've seen people are liquidating out of bitcoins and all that business because there's Bitcoin is the currency of hope, I guess. I don't understand it. I know some of you do. I don't. There's no currency. There's no economy behind it. It's just what people think it is. And hope isn't an investment option for most people, and nor a wise one. I feel badly for people that owned that when it was up to $60,000 and $70,000 a coin, and now it's down to under 20 or somewhere. It's just ridiculous. But at any rate, fool and his money shall soon be parted. All right, so back to this. This is a very nice vase, $1,000, bang, out the door, plus the premium, of course. All right, and then on to this. This was a bit of a surprise. This was a lot of 3 Qing coupes, water pots, and one of them was Yi Xing, and it was signed. And apparently that set people off over here. This one right here, it's done like a lotus pod, beautifully done, excellent stand. And this pot in the middle reminds me of one that was in that collection from the UK, the dealer that had passed away. His collection of scholars' objects. That looks like one that very similar to one that was there that brought, I think that brought, I don't know, it brought about $4,000 or something. But I think the Yi Xing pot is what set everything off. And it was very good quality. Here's the interior of it. There's the wooden one, the spoon, and all that business. But there's the inscription on the inside of this piece of Yi Xing. And I got a feeling that was what drove the price. And the values of Yi Xing pieces are very difficult to discern. But that is a particularly good one. And it drove the lot up, and it ended up going for $75,000. What's the bid history? Let's take a look at it. Where did it start? Started at $500, and then it jumped to $4,200 right off the bat, and then it was off to the races in $1,000 increments. That's a lot of bids. Boy, they really made Freeman's auction. Poor auctioneer had to work for this one. At any rate, in the end, it did great. Brought $75,000 plus the premium, but very rare thing, great object. So that's what it's about. And this was one of these a Tran Dynasty, 12th to 14th century, sort of a Mei-ping vase for the Vietnamese in the Vietnamese market, the Vietnamese market. A beautiful pot, though, a beautiful pot. And nicely decorated. It's got a great feeling to it. Love the shape of it. I love that shape. Nice big rounded shoulder. It tapers down, and then they applied this very attractive relief band, then dropped down some more, and all of it is behind these sort of acanthus leaves running up underneath here. You see them here, and those are it's sort of on the same idea of what you saw in blue and white during the Yuan dynasty, with these leaves running down at the bottom like that, the lappets, and very, very similar, but done in this warm, sort of almost orange-toned iron red. Very successful. There's a picture of the bottom of it. If you've never seen one, take a screenshot of that, somebody. All right, that's what the bottom of these pieces look like, with this big recessed area up inside. Very stoutly made. Ended up selling for $45,000 against a $1,500 to $2,000 estimate. Now, there was also another one that wasn't quite as good that sold in the upper 20s, just in case you're interested, and you can go back and check. And that's over at Freeman's. All right, and they also this was the Bonham sale, and this was the one that took place in L.A. Was this painting? I love this picture. Fukian junks on the Pearl River with a fort in the background. I just thought this was absolutely charming a picture. Beautiful light, soft morning light or evening light, and the junks are all lined up here. They used to raft them up together and things at night, particularly if they all belonged to one person. And often families got together this way by tying up their junks. And just a great picture. I really liked it. There it is with its mat. Not crazy about the mat, I have to say. But at any rate, it ended up selling for $2,200, which I think was very, very reasonable, against a $2,500 to $4,000 estimate. And, they don't know who painted it. These were, working artists. There were lots of them in Canton and Hong Kong that would go around and paint harbor scenes. They had studios and they would sell them. And if a ship came in and the captain wanted to, if they were going to, because they're going to be there for a while, they would often hire artists to go out and do portraits of their ships. And but anyway, this is just a sort of a generic harbor scene, but I like it a lot. All right, and then on to this. This was that side handle Canton a pot. Chocolate pot. They called it a coffee pot. It's really not a coffee pot. It's a chocolate pot, but that's okay. Let's see. This was at Marquis de Santos over in Portugal. Had this closed just over the weekend, last weekend, and we featured this also on the global pages. This was one of the lots because I thought it was such an unusual and interesting pot with such a very low estimate, 375 to 400 to 500 euros, which is crazy. And it ended up selling for 2,500 euros plus the premium. So figure it came in at around $3,300, something like that. But this was extremely unusual, I think, pot. The scene is sort of a stock pattern, sort of a traditional Chinese landscape scene from the 1780s or so, 1770s, 1780s, somewhere in there. But this pattern executed in this manner with sort of as a continuous landscape, I think was, a very successful thing. I do wish they included more pictures, though. Marquis de Santos is very cheap on pictures. If you're a seller online, include lots of pictures of the objects because you're going to end up being asked for them, and you're just wasting you waste your time. That's just the guys out there that do auctions. Rob Michaels, our friends over there, they do a great job with that. That's how you should do it. Lots of pictures, lots and lots and lots of pictures. All right. And this was another thing at Marquis de Santos. It was a beautiful, it sort of had a Imari decorated rim, golden orange decorated rim with underglazed blue in the middle here with this landscape with precious objects on a old sort of root table and the bamboo growing up like almost like looking like umbrellas with these giant peonies blossoming and so forth. Very abundant, very, very nice. This plate was, what was this? It was just about 14 inches, 35 centimeters, about 14 inches. Ended up selling for just $325. If anybody knows why that went so inexpensively, I'd love to know. Because I would think that would bring in the $600 to $800 range. I thought the estimate was reasonable. It didn't even make the low estimate. So all in with the buyer's premium, it ended up being around $375 to $400, which is very, very reasonable. Very reasonable. And they also had this. This was, now who was this? Oh, Alex Cooper's sale. It was on the global pages. I know a lot of you saw it because I got inquiries from everybody about it. They had some really good export ware. Lots of export porcelain, lots of good armorial porcelain. They had a lot of it. We're going to see a few pieces from the armorial porcelain for the Swedish market and that kind of thing. Really good stuff. But this one was one of those pink lotus pattern plates. We've seen these, the lotus bowls, using these pink areas here. Often the whole bowl is done this way. This one, they broke it up a little and they interspersed it with sort of a cracked ice pattern and a little like plum blossoms, and then did the center within a sort of almost a rococo border, but it's not rococo, and then flowers in the middle. A pair of these. These were very, very nice. Here's the backs of them, 18th century, and ended up doing okay, but nothing crazy, $700. This was the sale to go to, boy. This was a good auction. And then the Swedish market blue and white armorial crested platter with this crane in the middle. And it was, how big was this? 14 inches long, good sized plate. And had a shaped rim. But splendid quality, just really great quality. Notice the rim of the plate is molded and then has this nice blue line sort of framing the whole thing. And then within it you have this rococo inner area and then the bird in the middle. And there's a sort of a fishnet pattern behind the rococo framing. But there it is. This was a really interesting plate. And I don't think $2,000 was a lot of money for it. I thought the estimate was reasonable enough, and it went for $2,000 plus the premium. And you get a very rare 1760s, 1770s dish. Beautiful. And then there was this. This was a Sung Celadon. It had some cracks in it. I actually had a couple of inquiries about this. People wanted to know what I thought of it because I liked it. I mean, I'm not delighted that it was cracked, but in perfect shape, the thing would be untouchable to a lot of collectors because they were very expensive. And that's sort of a loose crack. I would, if one of you is the buyer of that, you want to get that looked at because that crack isn't tight. That's an open crack. But regardless, it went for $650 and measured about 8 inches tall. This wasn't a little tiny jar. It was a good-sized jar with a wooden lid. Somebody that gets this, notice that the top of it, there's a hole there. All right, and what that was where the finial was. And most likely it was a piece of jade. And somebody took that off, or carnelian maybe, or something. And that's easy enough, though, if you collect, if you bought this, keep your eyes out for something to stick in there to complete the lid again, because it looks a little unbalanced without something coming out of here. But the color of this Celadon was very good. The crack, people get sidetracked on the crack and they go, oh, it's damaged. But look at the color of the Celadon. The Celadon green was perfect. And that's the color you want. And, for $650, why not? You can get it cleaned up. You could have a gilt lacquer repair, kintsugi repair done to that, and it would be fantastic and, for under $1,000. All right, and then on to this. This was the bargain of the day. It was this pair of 18th century China trade export hawks, 1790, maybe 1800, 1810, but somewhere around there. These are extremely rare. These are really rare and very unusual. And I think for that reason alone, they didn't bring a lot of money because people went and looked them up and said, oh, I can't find one just like them. So I don't know what they're worth. They were estimated at $3,000 to $5,000, which I thought was a perfectly reasonable proposition. And they ended up selling for $2,250. So somebody went in there, and there were only a couple of bids, I think, on these, right? Just a handful of bids, yeah. Yeah, they opened at $1,500 and closed at $2,250. But very, very rare. These are really rare. And I hope one of you bought these. They're great wall pockets. There they are. They're difficult to photograph, though, I think. $2,250. Great deal. And then onto this. This was another armorial plate that was at Alex Cooper's. He had a lot of these. And very attractive. Again, Swedish market. So he had somebody that consigned to him that were armorial collectors, export collectors, focusing on England and Northern Europe, it seems. All right. And then this passed. And this kind of surprised me. This was a Chinese export Imari bow pot. Very nicely done. This is a good one. There are the holes in the top. And there it is. And looks to be in good shape. I don't know why it passed. I can't imagine. If anybody knows, let me know, because it should have sold. And if you collect bow pots and unusual things, here it is, a classic Imari pattern all the way around it. Its starting bid was $1,000, and the lot passed. So maybe if one of you wants to get a really great piece of Kangxi export ware, you want to look into that. You want to get a hold of Alex and see if he still has it and see if he can make you a deal. And then on to this. This was something I got 2 inquiries about because people wanted to know what it was. It's a hair receiver. And you see them every once in a while. They didn't make them. The first ones they did were really in China were in the Kangxi period. And these were meant to keep on a lady's table and lift the top off. And she's grooming and so forth. Bits of hair get in the comb. You put them in there. That's what this was for. And this was sold by Suchow and Siegel. They were a very good dealer in New York for many, many years. And this is a nice piece of Kangxi ware, beautifully done, and a rare form. And $1,300 bought it, which I think was very, very fair. All right, and that was sort of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been added to the global pages in the last few days. We're going to be updating it if you're a subscriber. You want to check some prices. A couple of the sales that finished in the last 2 days, we've left them up there. And the sales room page, there's several auctions up there that have finished. Go check and see how they did. And in the other auction houses are still there, so you can go look at prices. And those will come down tomorrow, though. So if you want to check prices before then, do it. Because they won't be there for too much longer. Now, on the newsletter page this week, there was a bit of stuff, but not a huge amount. And there's several things still closing that are coming up that are going to close tonight and tomorrow. And we're going to whip through them here. If we get the page to load, we'll be in good shape. Let's see here. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Let me see here. There we are. Okay, this Kangxi triple gourd vase closes in the next day or so, as does that. This closed. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And there's a number of things that have closed, but there's a bunch of things that have come up. And I wanted to mention that the seller over in England, Hugh, some of you know him, Hugh 3865 or something. He's a very good dealer and collector of 17th century Chinese and Japanese porcelain. He really knows his stuff. And a couple of times a year he does a sale. And all of his items are going to be on the newsletter page this week. It won't be all that's on the newsletter page, but they are going to be on the newsletter page because he always has really interesting things, and you'll find them on there. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if you buy 17th century Chanchi wares and Japanese early Japanese Arita and all that, you know who he is probably, and you want to check it out, okay? But let's see if we can get over here. There we go. This we talked about before. We've seen these before. These silver filigree and enamel fans. These are beautiful, and they always do well because they're fairly rare with this enameling on the silver. And this one was in good condition. Very nicely done all the way around, and ended up in the end selling for a good price, $1,975 on eBay. But a very, very good example. And I don't know this particular Austin McKenna. It seems to me I've seen that name before, but I don't remember. But anyway, this was a nice fan, and it was in excellent condition, and it sold just fine. And then over to this late 18th, early 19th century apple green jar. I think they sold it. I thought it was maybe Kangxi period. It's not Kangxi, but it's late 18th, early 19th century. But glorious color, apple green with a crackle, nice color, and it ended up bringing $822. Oh no, they just sold it as a 18th century. That's fair. Okay, all right. I thought they had put it up as Kangxi. Yeah, it's 18th or early 19th century, late 18th or early 19th. Nice jar, nice jar. And the silver. There we go. Silver dragon bowl with a shaped rim, beautifully done. Signed on here. Did they bother to look it up? It just says 1890 signed. Anyway, well, somebody looked it up. Super Shrink had this. Did he put? Who is it by? Workshop of W.A. The baker is listed in Chan's 2005 text. Okay. He'll also be in the silver index over on the Bidamount in the reference section on the Chinese silver section. Nice bowl, $473. Chinese silver is still hanging on. However, the Chiswick sale was this week, and they had a bunch of silver, and some of it didn't sell, and I don't know why. But if you're a Chinese silver buyer, you might want to get a hold of Chiswick's in England, and ask them what's available from that sale post-auction. You might be able to get yourself a pretty good deal. All right, and this is from the Ceramics and Collectibles. This sold very reasonably. This was the Shangri-La guys. This was a really nice export plate for the Japanese market. Has got a red kintsugi repair and a hairline in it, but it was a good sized plate. It was 8 inches in diameter and very interesting layout, very unusual layout. Always go for the art. Don't worry, the condition issues are always to me a second concern. Somebody bought this plate for $76. That was a great buy. That was a really great buy. All right, and then this plate here, the 18th century export with the hounds chasing the spotted deer. Whoops. So hold on. Where'd it go? Okay, well, we lost that page, didn't we? Hold on a second. I'll go back here. There it is. Pull it back in. There we go. Come on. There we go. 18th century spotted deer. It sold for $711, but it was nicely done, and it's got this pot border decoration up here, this white on white enamel on the white glaze, so you get this very nice effect, and beautifully divided the way they did the sections, and then of course the plate itself is shaped. Nicely done all the way around. The whole package was very nice. And they just called it Shin to Command Porcelain Chinlung Dogs and Deer Hunt. And it ended up doing $711. Very attractive thing. And then back over into here. Here we go. The Aubergine Zun vase. This was a nice thing. I talked about it last week. I liked it. I liked the bottom of it. I liked the way it looked all the way around. Beautiful, beautiful color. This color, very rich, very thick, very glossy, and nicely shaped pot. And notice how the foot splays out a little bit the way it should. This, very rounded, pretty body, and then curving up and then back out with a slight flare at the rim. Just overall, well potted, nicely done. Had a nick out of it. Who cares? And there's down inside of it. Like it. And ended up selling for $1,575. And last week we talked about it a little because I thought this was just a nice thing, and I thought it would do pretty well because the color was good, and you don't see aubergine vases all that often. Not like you see turquoise and things like that. And here you have a very simple sort of a commoner's Chinese robe, or a robe for a middle class lady, nicely done with a soft aubergine ground. With flowers and, the standard fare, late Qing, early Republic period, ended up selling for $610. And then on to this, the big teapot. I mentioned this last week because I thought it was really nice because it was so big. Big gutsy teapot with a crest on it, strap handles, the basket weave upper section around the top. There's a lot of work went into this thing. There's a lot of activity on this. And then the molded spout here, molded decoration on the spout. And overall, it looked to be in quite good condition everywhere. Here's the bottom of it, very nice. There are the strap handles. They look perfect from what I can see anyway. And here's the lid. There's a crack on the inside. I don't know if it goes through or not. It did go through. Okay, that's all right. But just a nice big, extra large teapot. And tea at this time in England, of course, was very, very expensive. So having a huge teapot like this was a real symbol of status. It's like people that had giant tea caddies. A lot of it was for show. They would even go as far as taking large Mandarin jars or big jars, and they would mount hinged lids on them, and so they could be locked because the tea was expensive, and they were always afraid the servants of stealing the tea. So they would tend to lock them, but they'd have these giant jars that would cost a fortune to fill with tea, and they'd have a pair of them on a sideboard with hinged. Would take the dome lids that came with the jars, and they would metal mount hinges into them and store their tea in there. But it was also it was a little bit of showing off, is what it amounted to. Just like having a very large teapot was a bit of showing off. It was sort of an opulent thing to do. And this was a beast of a pot. This looks like a 2-quart teapot. But at any rate, it was nice, and it was armorial, and the family obviously ordered at least a tea service with their crest on it, and I suspect this was part of a large dinner service at one point, including the tea service, and probably had several teapots, because I can't imagine they'd try to fill this every time they sat down to have some tea and a cucumber sandwich. Any rate, this went for $774, which I think is perfectly fine for a pot this size. This was a good big pot, and there it is. All right, and like I said, the seller Hugh is going to have the 17th century export wares up, and there's some other things we had that'll be in the global news. I mean, on the Bidamount newsletter page, and the global news page. Those of you that have subscribed, a few of you have subscribed since last week. Thank you. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be going in over there. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, there seems to be a tapering of worthwhile things on eBay these days. It really does. Those of you that track eBay closely have probably noticed too. There's not as many good things coming up because sellers have gone elsewhere. And a lot of the stuff, I suspect, is turning up at different auction houses from what we're seeing over in the EU in particular and in the US in particular. And I got a feeling that more and more and more that is going to be the market where things are going to be sold. And it's the stuff that we cover on the global pages, because I'm not seeing it on the other auction sites that do like eBay. I don't see that much auction material turning up. So I got a feeling that's where it's all going. So if you want to subscribe, please do. Because we're going to be focusing more and more on all of those pages, because that's where all the action is in the last week, and has been in the last couple of months actually. It's sort of a fascinating dynamic, and with the economy the way it isn't a bad idea to look into other places, because I think in some countries you're going to find some pretty favorable environments for purchasing. Especially if you're a dealer, there'll be a bit of arbitrage in it for you. You can probably make some money if you do it right. Okay, all righty. Thank you for watching. Subscribe here if you haven't already, and get ready. 4th of July is coming up in a week, and I hope you all have a great weekend, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye-bye.